Hello everybody, and welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video, we'll be doing our top 10 House seats that are expected to flip next week. So, obviously you know the drill by now. If you are not subscribed and if you have not liked the video yet, go do that right now. And turn on post notifications so you don't miss another upload between now and the elections, because we've got a lot of stuff coming in these final days. We're in the home stretch here, so a ton of content that we are going to be making. So, again, the first thing I want you to do before we get into this is I want you to comment down a few House seats. It doesn't have to be 10. It can be, it can be 2 or 3, or, if you want to do 10, that's even better. But comment down some House seats you think are going to flip, or seats that you think could flip, or that seats you at least have your eyes on, because I want to see what you guys were thinking so we can talk about some bonus seats as well. But that being said, let's get into it here. I have a list of 10 House seats. We'll be doing it from number 10 to number 1, and we're just going to hop right into it now. So, at number 10, the 10th most likely to flip, it's Virginia 2. This is a seat in the Virginia Beach area. It is represented by Democrat Elaine Luria, and it is a very interesting seat because it is suburban, it is left trending, and it is a seat where I think the Dobbs decision really does help out Democrats. That being said, it's only Biden plus 1.7, so it voted a solid 2.7% to the right of the country in 2020. It's even more Republican down ballot, so add in a few points of that, and you're looking at a seat maybe 5-6% to the right of the country. And Elaine Luria is not the strongest incumbent. She did outrun Biden in 2020, but she had a very bad opponent, and she was essentially guaranteed to win by most forecasters. So Republicans didn't really invest a ton of money in her race, and ultimately, Glenn Youngkin won her seat by 11 points in 2021, which is our most recent election. And now I know governor's races and House races are very different, but the fact that Democrats got squashed so badly here last year is pretty concerning for Luria. So I think it's a pretty clear lean Republican race. She still has the path to victory. She has a big cash advantage, and she has those left trends going for her. But at the end of the day, this is a seat that's consistently more Republican than the nation as a whole, and we're already in a Republican tilting environment, to say the very least. So to me, it is looking like Luria is on the path to losing. Now, at number 9, we're going to go to another Democratic seat on the East Coast. It's Maine's 2nd District. Now, this is a bit of a surprise. I know this is a hot take. I know everyone thinks Jared Golden's going to win, but let's just step back for a second. Yes, Jared Golden is a very good incumbent. He did outrun Joe Biden by about 14 points in 2020. So he knows how to appeal to the voters of this district. He has, a decent cash advantage, and he's been doing fairly well in the polls, although, again, we don't have that many polls, and the polls in this seat tend to underestimate Republican support by a lot historically. So I think there are some asterisks there. And here's the thing. He's in a Trump plus 7 seat. I think he has a chance to win, but I think of all the Democrats who have a chance to win, he's in the reddest seat by far, besides Mary Peltola. But I think, spoiler alert, Peltola will not be on this list because I think she's going to win in November. But the thing with Jared Golden is that his seat is right trending. It is not super educated. Having Paul LePage on the ballot is going to help Republicans statewide because LePage is almost certainly going to outrun Trump. And, when you factor all those things in, it's going to be tough for Jared Golden now. He can win. And he will, and if he does win, it'll be because he gets support from those Trump Republicans, or because there was a bit of a turnout drop among Republican voters. But that's not something I'd bet on, and I think it's pretty clear to me why he's an underdog. Right trending seat, Trump plus 7, looking like Golden's on his way out as well. Now, number 8, we're going to go to another East Coast seat. This is Tom Malinowski's seat. It's in New Jersey. This is District 7 right here. This is the suburbs. We don't really have a ton of big cities. It's mostly just the suburbs. This is a wealthy area, predominantly white, very college-educated. Typical left-trending suburban seat, kind of similar to right down here in Virginia, too, although it is about 2% or 3%, it's about 2% blue. It was around Biden plus 4 in 2020. And I think similarly to Elaine Luria in 2000, similar to Elaine Luria, this is a seat that flipped in 2018. Obviously, Tom Malinowski's the incumbent here. He's a Democrat, and he's already been kind of screwed from day one. Look, here's the thing with Tom Malinowski. In 2020, he ran in a Biden plus 10 seat, so he was 6% bluer and in likely a more Democratic national environment, okay? And he only won by a point. And then Republicans didn't even try to beat him. They were shocked it was even that close, and I think so was Malinowski, considering he outspent his challenger. And the fact that his challenger came within a point of beating him in a D plus 4 or in a D plus 3 House environment when he was in a D plus 10 seat or a Biden plus 10 seat, the fact that his opponent came within a point of beating him is pretty striking. Showing how vulnerable Malinowski is. And his opponent, that guy, Tom Keene, is now running again, and he actually is receiving national funding. He is getting a lot of endorsements, I think, from local, from the local things you need in New Jersey 7. And this is this is a seat that is more Republican down ballot. Yes, it is Biden plus 4, so it will probably vote for the next Democratic presidential nominee. That being said, more Republican down ballot, and Tom Keene is a really good candidate for this area. I think he might be the best Republican recruit in all of New Jersey, and that's saying a lot because they had some pretty good recruits this year, both at the state legislative level, both at the local level and at the federal level. So, Malas gives a shot. He has a lot of money, so he's been dishing out a lot of attack ads. But in a seat like this, I don't think it'll be enough. I think he's on the path to about a 4 or 5 point defeat next week. Now, seat number 7 here. This is yet another Republican pickup. This is Iowa District 3 going over to the Midwest now. And this is the final, I guess you could say this is the last stand of federal Democrats in Iowa. They do hold some local positions, and I think that they might actually win that the state, I want to say, Attorney General race. That's Tom Miller. He who's been leading in the polls. I think he might actually be able to hold on as kind of like one of the last statewide Democrats in Iowa. But it is looking like, in Iowa District 3, it is looking like this is going to be the last House seat Democrats hold in Iowa for a very long time. This is Cindy Axne's seat. It's Trump plus 0.2, so functionally a 50-50 split in 2020. But again, this isn't a super left-running seat. It was in a, it was in a bluer national environment. And Axne, again, outspent her opponent massively. She has a better opponent this time, Zach Nunn. And I think additionally, the thing you have to consider is that Iowa, Trump won Iowa by about 8% in 2020. Chuck Grassley is going to do worse than he did in 2016, but I think he won by close to 12 or 13 than 8. And Kim Reynolds, the Republican nominee for governor, is going to by 17 or 18, in all honesty here. So I think the candidates for Republicans at the top of the ticket are going to be a lot more likely to carry the seat than Trump, because again, they're probably going to carry the seat by mid to high single digits, whereas Trump only won it by 0.2. In addition to that, Axne's a good incumbent, but Zach Dunn's been running a good campaign. He's been getting tied to Joe Biden, or he's been tying her to Joe Biden, who's very unpopular in this district. Again, this is just Trumpy territory in a midterm like this. I think a lot of Democrats are going to have a harder time surviving. So that, to me, Cindy Axne looks like she is going to be in a lot of trouble here. Now, our next seat that is looking likely to flip. This is another Midwestern seat. This is the seat of Ohio. This is Ohio District 9. Marcy Copter. Again, we've been getting a lot of mixed signals from this seat. We do have some good polls for Copter, but again, the asterisk for polls that are good for Democrats in the Midwest, in a seat like Iowa as well, where the polls have been decent for Cindy Axne, the asterisk for that is that the polls in the Midwest tend to severely underestimate support for Republicans. And when you take that into account, when you remember that and you apply that polling miss, Copter's either in a dead heat or actually trailing J.R. Majewski for Republican challenger. Now, Majewski has not an easy time either. He's been getting actually, kind of given up on by national Republicans. They've said they've not going to spend in the race. He only has $150K cash on hand, so he doesn't have a ton of money. Whereas Marcy Copter has millions of dollars. She's been massively outspending him both in terms of events and on the airwaves. Now, that being said, this is a tricky seat for Copter because this is a Trump plus 3 district. And in addition to that, this is a seat that is trending right. And it's trending right so fast that, Biden did even worse than Hillary Clinton, despite the fact that most seats Biden did better than in Hillary Clinton. And the thing about the seat is that it's a seat where Dobbs doesn't really help the Democrats. Toledo turnout is always particularly bad in midterm elections. And I think some of that could change with Copter actually running a better campaign this time. And I think she will put up a strong fight, but I think she's going to lose by 2 or 3 points at the end of the day. Right trending seat, and unless Tim Ryan can do really well, or at least better than I'm expecting at the top of the ticket, I do think Copter, I would pick her to go down as it stands today. Now, next up is our first Republican to Democrat flip. It is in the state of Texas. You already know what it is. It is Mayra Flores' seat. Now, this is a Biden plus 16 seat. And while it is in the Rio Grande Valley, while it is a right-trending seat, while it could be competitive down the line, still Biden plus 16. This is super blue territory Republicans are going to have to defend here. Additionally, Mayra Flores, she's the Republican incumbent, yes, but she's only been in office for, I want to say 4 months. And while she does know the district quite well, still a lot of new territory. It is still a ton of stuff to overcome, especially considering Beto O'Rourke's going to do kind of well here at the top of the ticket. I'm not saying he's going to win Texas, but I think he'll kind of hold his ground at least, which helps Democrats like Cuellar and Vicente Gonzalez, who are running against Flores. And Gonzalez actually isn't running that good of a campaign. I think he's kind of made some blunders he didn't need to make in terms of campaigning, but he has a cash advantage, and this seat, I think it's blue enough where Gonzalez can underperform and where Trent's going to hurt Democrats, but he can still win. So I think he's going to win by 4 or 5 points. Again, a lot of stuff can happen. I wouldn't be surprised if he wins by 10. I wouldn't be surprised if he actually goes down and Flores holds on and pulls off an upset. But that being said, I think this is clearly in the, one of the seats most likely to flip, just considering how blue it is and how wonky the incumbency there is for Flores. So that is Texas 34. Now, at our number 4 seat, we're going to go back to Pennsylvania, or go back to the Northeast Pennsylvania. It's coming, Pennsylvania 7. It's Susan Wild. Susan Wild is in a very tough race. It's a Biden +1 seat. So her seat voted 3.5% to the, around 3% to the right of the country in 2020. Again, if you assume even environment, she'd be down by 3. It's not like super left trending. I think Josh Shapiro is going to carry it fairly easily at the top of the ticket, but John Fetterman, I think he'd do all right there, but I'm not sure if I bet on him necessarily winning it, although again, it will be close. So I don't think that she's going to have to, get a ton of, she won't be able to count on a ton of Fetterman, boosting her there. And additionally, when you look at her opponent, Lisa Scheller, Scheller's been running a good campaign. She has a decent amount of money for a challenger like this, and Wild's just not that good of an incumbent. I think she had a gaffe back in June where she, kind of insulted Trump supporters, which again are the minority in her seat, but not by much, only by about a point. So she's, going to have a lot to overcome here. And I think perhaps most importantly, the thing we have to remember about this seat is that turnout patterns actually don't benefit them. She's going to need good turnout from Allentown and those kind of mid-sized cities to boost her, and I think those cities have historically fallen in terms of midterm turnout. So when looking at that, getting really hard to see her winning re-election. I think this is a race that's pretty clearly leaning towards Lisa Scheller. While there's a chance, but I would be pretty surprised if she can pull it off, especially considering the fact we're in a more Republican-leaning environment now. So that is seat number 4. Now, number 3, the third most likely, the seat that is third most likely to flip, going to go to the Midwest, Michigan. This is our second red to blue flip. And this is an interesting seat because originally it looked like a pure toss-up. Now, what happened was Peter Meijer was the Republican incumbent here, and Meijer won in a Trump +3 seat in 2020 by over 6%. So he's an overperformer. He's well-known in the region. He has a good name in the region, Meijer grocery store. People from the Midwest, I think, will understand that. I'm not from the Midwest, but I've obviously a family there, and I've been to Meijer grocery stores. They're all over the place in this district, so he already had that name going for him in 2020. He was a bit more of a moderate to establishmentarian Republican, which in statewide Michigan might not play well, but in a seat like this, very left trending, very suburban, that is pretty helpful. And what happened was he got primaried by a super right wing opponent, John Gibbs, who has said, Democrats eat babies. I don't think women should be allowed to vote. And regardless of what you think about those statements, I think they don't really necessarily play super well in a seat like this. Again, this is Biden plus 8.5. This is blue territory for him to be running in. And when you take a look at the polls, he's not doing well in the polls. He's getting massively outspent by Hillary Scholten, his opponent, and Hillary Scholten is getting all the backing from national Democrats. John Gibbs has kind of just been left to hang out to dry by national Republicans who don't really like him for beating out Peter Meijer, who was kind of their guy. And so I think that will lead to a pretty embarrassing loss for John Gibbs here. Again, this is a super left-trending seat, and it's so left-trending that Biden, despite doing 7% worse statewide, actually did a point better than Gretchen Whitmer here. So, it's about as left-trending as it gets. It's Biden plus 8.5. It's getting hard to see, especially in a post-Dobbs environment, John Gibbs losing or John Gibbs winning here. So this is a red to blue flip. Now, our final 2 seats, I think, are basically set outcomes. And I think, if those of you have been following these seats, you're going to know these are both Southern seats. And, let's just, I guess, talk about it here. So we are going to start with, Florida District 3. Now, this seat has just been totally dismantled. The original Florida District 3 was kind of a seat that took Tallahassee and went up to Jacksonville. It was kind of a bit of like a bacon strip, and it was a majority black opportunity district. So it was an interesting seat because it gave the black voters of North Florida a chance to kind of elect their own representative who was a Democrat. But the seat got, kind of just nuked by DeSantis and his gerrymandered map. And it went from like a Biden plus 17 or Biden plus 20 seat to like a Trump plus 20 seat. And look, Al Lawson, he's a decent incumbent. He's decently well known in the area. And, him being a Democrat, I think there's some down ballot lag there, but it's a Trump plus 20 seat. Like, it is getting really hard to see how Al Lawson wins this race. And, he's basically dead on arrival. DeSantis and Rubio are going to carry it easily at the top of the ticket. And, his Republican opponent's going to do very well here, beating him out. Now, our final See, this is a seat. Actually, sorry, just so you guys know, on my list, I made a bit of a mistake here. On my list, Florida was this district was most likely to flip, but I guess we'll go. We mixed it together. That's all right though. The second seat, the seat second most likely to flip is Arizona 2. This is a Trump +8 seat. It's rep by Democratic incumbent Tom O'Halloran. O'Halloran has done good things in terms of native turnout in the past. And he's been able to overperform Biden and Clinton pretty consistently. That being said, it's he got moved from like a Biden +6 or 7 seats, like a Trump +8 seat, and I think his overperformance will help out Kelly and Hobbs, but it won't be enough to get him anywhere close to winning this seat. And Eli Crane's been tied in some internals, which is a bit concerning for him, but ton of undecideds there, and it's not a seat I would consider to be super, super Democratic Democrats overperformance betting on type area. I didn't really articulate that well, but it's just this seat doesn't really move a ton, and it's not elastic enough where you could see some wacky result that would somehow reelect Tom O'Halloran. So yeah, Trump +8 seat looking really bad for Tom O'Halloran, and I don't even know why him and Lawson are running because they're literally dead on arrival. So that's the 10 House seats. I'll list them again just before we zoom out and zoom back in here. The 10 House seats would be Florida 3, Arizona 2, Michigan 3, Pennsylvania 7, Ohio 9, Iowa 3, Texas 34, New Jersey 7, Maine 2, and Virginia 2. Again, one of these seats might be wrong. I think Maine 2 is interesting. I think Ohio 9 I could be wrong about. Maybe even Myra Flores' seat. But I am I should not have Florida, but I'm pretty confident that these seats are going to flip. These are seats where the incumbent or the incumbent party, in the case of Michigan 3, is having a really hard time fundraising or holding onto their momentum there. These seats are often trending in the opposite direction of the party that holds them, and ultimately, when you take a look at the fundamentals and you take a look at the partisanship, I think all these incumbents should be pretty worried about where they are. So thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Obviously, if you enjoy this type of content, give me that thumbs up, give me that subscription would greatly help me out. So always appreciate it. And I'm going to see you all in the next video coming out tomorrow. Thank you for listening. Have a great rest of your day.